This isn't Fortress France. Hey, Sindrin. No, this is not. Although, France does exist, and it's pretty well fortified. There was a massive war last session between France and Burgundy, and France came out on top. In fact, Burgundy is getting gobbled up massively. Castile seems to be in an awful lot of wars, fighting against England at the moment. I wonder if they're going to lose all of their ships. They currently still have their heavies. England's maintaining their 12. Bearing in mind that one of France's goals is to ensure that England reaches 0 heavy ships. So England needs to be very careful that they don't lose their fleet. Because not only will that leave them massively vulnerable, it'll also give France one of their goals. And that is not a persistent goal. Sorry, that is not a temporary goal, it's a persistent one, permanent one. Sweden, are you independent yet? No. Probably because Denmark keeps on getting into fights, so they're not getting the opportunity to become independent. Limburg, Aachen, Ansbach, Bavaria, Bohemia, Cleves, Frankfurt, Kelra. Oh, this is a coalition! And quite a massive one at that. Oh dear, Denmark. That's over 100,000 men against their 28,000. That's double plus on good. So from the grave, Hamburg is fighting them. Striking them back. Seems like Poland's being the devil's advocate with them allying with the Ottomans. They kind of are, but Poland has no anti-Ottoman goals. They were all Hungary. Even though historically it was the Poles and the Austrians who stopped the Ottomans, so I probably should have given them some anti-Ottoman ones. But never mind. Is this the chastening of Denmark? I suspect it is. Because they're definitely going to lose Lübeck and Hamburg here. And Dithmarschen. Whether they lose Holstein as a vassal as well, I'm not sure. In fact, is Holstein even a vassal? Yes. Just not showing up on the... Oh no, it's coalition map mode, that's why. I was thinking this was the diplomatic mode. There we go. Now we can see precisely what they're up against. They have not chosen to call in Poland or France, however. Probably because they will go, no! You made your bed, now lie in it. So if England builds new ships after being reduced to 0, France will have to sink those too. No. France just needs to ensure that England goes down to 0 once, and then they've got their goal. Done. Can't be removed. It's one of the permanent ones. It's not purple. Because it would be far too easy for England to just build one in, like, Orkney or something. I know that's Orkney, that's the Hebrides. No, that's the Isles. Wish I could see Europe, can't even see as far as the Ottomans. How much can Ethiopia see? If we go over to Ethiopia... Whoa, okay, yeah, they can't see very much. I was actually reading about Ethiopia earlier because I had to create their goals, and I was doing that earlier today. Well, their secret goals earlier today. So I was reading the history of Ethiopia, and it's fascinating. Like, they had basically no contact with Europe until Portugal came by. Considering they're relatively close, I was surprised by that. Then they had a really good alliance with Portugal until one of their rulers turned to Catholicism, and then they deposed him and banned Catholics and kicked out all of the Jesuit missionaries. It's kind of weird to think that Ethiopia was once a Catholic country, though. Hey, my happy face. How goes the game? It's interesting. Although I think that Ethiopia may have made a couple of oopsies. I mean, they have a lot of separatists here. How long until those trigger against them? 38 months, 3 years. So once they've taken out Hera, they can gobble up those territories and just keep expanding. I mean, the thing with Ethiopia is they have to take this land because they have... It's a ticking time bomb. Like, once the Mamluks get down. It's a good thing, actually, for them that the Mamluks are not here today. Because that's giving them a little bit of breathing space. Has Austria peaced out? Looks that way, doesn't it? Yes, Austria has peaced out, so this is just against Hungary at this point. So this is the Ottomans blobbing out, taking in Europe. But I want to see the downfall of Denmark. This is the interesting thing to me right now. We have no player wars going on currently. The Danes are just sitting here in the islands. They're using their ships to blockade. So they're probably just going to wait this one out. I mean, there's a lot of war score down here because these are both forts. And they're both very valuable provinces. Kolding, a little bit less so. It's an 8 dev. But Lübeck is a 17. Hamburg is a 30. Wow, that's going to be a lot of war score right there. And show superiority is the war goal. So if Denmark can like do hit and run attacks against the tiny little stacks to build up the superiority, then they could get ticking war score on their side. But yeah, as long as they control the Øresund, they're fine. Although somebody else may take this opportunity to see a weakened Denmark and strike at them. Because they would be very, very, very definitely distracted. If I was Sweden, I would only fight on Swedish territory, let the Danes die for Denmark, then break free. I am very curious to see what Sweden's plan is to break free from Denmark. Because it is one of their goals. It is something they have to do. But then again, Denmark knows this. So Denmark may do everything that they can to pander to Sweden to keep them loyal. Which is an interesting dynamic. Definitely a good time to take some Danish, Estonia, Latvia. It kind of is. And I wouldn't actually be very surprised if we see Poland going after them as well. Like, Poland really does have the opportunity here to do some serious damage. I'm curious to see what happens with Hungary though. What does Poland gain from this war? A chunk of Hungary maybe? Because if we take a look at the casualties, we can see that Poland's lost 13,000 men. They've lost more than the Ottomans have. They've done all of the fighting. The Ottomans have been taking the attrition damage, and Poland seems not at all interested in that. Which is why it kind of suggests to me that Poland's not interested in Hungarian territory. Oh yeah, that's true. Sweden can't break free during a war. Hungary sieging that down, really? And Moldavia and Bosnia all the way back there. It's definitely them who are suffering more than the Ottomans, even though the Ottomans are going to stand to benefit from this the most. It's kind of funny. Bavaria is about to take Kolding, but then after that, can't go any further. Denmark completely uninterested, just sitting there drilling. Sweden sitting over here waiting for Muscovy to try something. Quite wise. What's England doing at the moment? England is sitting in Calais because they're going after Flanders. So this is something that Holland is probably concerned about. This alliance between England and France is like the devil's alliance. And considering the agreements they have about trade, it is absolutely in England's interest to go after the Low Countries. And that's going to be very bad for Holland. Has Holland made themselves any allies? Saxony, Trier and Liège. So Holland is trying the Denmark method of allying with the Germanic miners, which is probably wise. But I feel like Holland really needs to try and find a big brother. Castile maybe, Denmark maybe, Austria maybe, Bohemia, Brandenburg. In fact, a Holland-Brandenburg combo is really potent. Because Holland brings the cash, which can then fund Brandenburg, so Brandenburg can bring the army. Oh, and Holland has the navy as well. Also, rip the Balkans, only Romania is so safe for now. I'm trying to remember if anyone else had any... remove the Ottomans from Europe. I think Austria does. Again, looking at the old ideas here. Yeah, the Ottomans must be removed from Europe, Balkans and the Carpathians. So, previously it was supposed to be Austria and Hungary working together on this, but because Hungary has not been here for 2 weeks now, and it's no longer protected, unfortunately this happens. If you sign up for a multiplayer game, you should probably try to actually make it. I don't think anyone's going to save them from the mighty Ottoman steamroller. No. And if Austria were here, he would be watching that with serious concern. Especially now that he knows that Poland is allied to the Ottomans. Like, oh, that's dangerous. These three are probably looking at that going, uh-oh. Uh-oh. So what's Holland doing? Holland, I suspect, No, they don't actually have much aggressive expansion. I think I would be getting a little bit expansionist if I were the Dutch right now. Hell are allied with Brittany, Munster and Savoy. Those are not large nations. That's something that Holland could take. Take out Gelderland, vassalize them. Probably would have and should have gone after Brabant, because Brabant has some seriously nice provinces. Not as good as Vlaanderen, but Brabant itself is pretty good. It is not a centre of trade. Where's the centre of trade here? Antwerpen. Yeah, Brabant has Antwerp. Actually, one thing which I seem to remember is Brabant has surprisingly strong military ideas. Tax modifier, stability cost, morale of armies is the capstone, unrest, manoeuvre, prestige, trade steering, interest per annum. Okay, they have no military ideas, never mind. I just remember from one of the really early games playing Europa Universalis that Brabant packed a real punch. Maybe it's just because they're so wealthy, so they have a really big army at the start. That's possible. And Denmark has survived the coalition. More than that, he's taken out Holstein. That adds more negative though, doesn't it? No. And Sweden is independent. So I wonder if releasing Sweden reduces aggressive expansion. That's possible. So maybe Denmark were waiting to annex Holstein and then release Sweden. And Denmark is in a pretty good position here. Protected by the two forts in Hamburg and Lübeck. That is a really nice defence, actually. Although both of those are farmland, so not as nice as, say, if they were in the mountains or something, but that's still two forts, and they're going to be pretty high level, because he's got the money to upgrade those forts. There's a natural choke point. I am somewhat surprised that they survived that so easily. Coalitions are usually very difficult to take out. Ooh, France. What's going on here? France taking the opportunity to go after Castile. Although they should be piecing Castile out as soon as Castile will go. Castile's on medium. Probably need to go down to low. Because you're not allowed to devastate them. You're not allowed to demand money. It's a protected nation. In fact, I better warn him because that is not a regular player. Castile is Strawman. Hello.
Especially because... Hello.
Strawman just saying Castile's a protected nation, so you have to piece him out.
I know he's protected. I'm not going to take any land from him.
Okay. Can't take money either.
Can't take money either?
Nope, it's a defensive protected.
Alright then.
So just piece him out as soon as you can.
No war rips, no money. No humiliate either?
Nothing.
Nothing. Alright.
Nothing.
Rip.
Okay, done. And there we go. Yeah, I'm glad I warned him about that because I don't want him ruining Castile. Sicily is free. Sicily is indeed free. Currently allied to Mantua. I wonder if Naples is going to go after it. Although Naples is still... Oh no, they're in the coalition. The Florentine coalition apparently still exists. And I was trying to find out who was in it. It's just Naples. Naples like, I'm not leaving. And Naples isn't the player. Who's supposed to be Naples? Naples is played by New Haven, who's ill today. So I wonder how much of Hungary is going to be taken. Is Hungary going to be left in a playable state or not? Bosnia's gone. Nothing taken by the looks of things. Unless they lost a couple of their border provinces. No, nothing. And then it's just going to be Hungary. Tunis. Tunis got the most land down here. Portugal and Aragon did not take very much. Interesting. This has a potential to be an extremely strong Tunis. Although I wonder if Tunis realises that he really needs to take Sale, because that's where he can get his pirate republic. And one of Tunis's objectives is to spawn a pirate republic, and Sale is by far the easiest for them. Otherwise they'll need to wait and colonise the Caribbean to get New Providence, Tortuga, or Port Royal. Although I don't think they can do Tortuga, because Tortuga has to be Protestant or Reformed. Mediterranean's getting all sorts of action today, they are. Game paused by Helson. I suspect that's actually just a lag spike. Moroccan separatists about to trigger. Mistake on Aragon, Portugal's mistake. Yeah, it is. Portugal, I don't think cares. Portugal needs to have a colonial nation in 5 different colonial regions, own a level 3 centre of trade on Goa, which is in India, own a level 3 centre of trade in Macau, which is in China, be the first to circumnavigate the globe, and have 51% trade power in 5 trade companies. So they don't care about the Maghreb, and I don't think Aragon does either. It's Castile that cares. Where's Aragon? Why are you not on my list? Oh, there you are. Aragon needs to have 8 level 3 centres of trade, have 3 colonial nations of 20 provinces each, complete the confirmed Thalassocracy decision, you know, the one where they have loads of ships, own Rhodes, Crete, Cyprus and Corfu, and own Alexandria. So they don't care about the Maghreb either. That is purely a Castellan thing. So they're probably just after the trade? Nope, Portugal did not get Gerb. No, didn't get Tlemcen. Didn't get Safi. Oh, Agadir. Although that's Sus, that's not Morocco. Now, has Portugal started exploring or anything yet? No. Do they have any colonists? No. What ideas have they taken? They have taken exploration. They're still waiting for the first point, at which point they can get explorers. Though, don't they start with one? Maybe they fired him. I mean, whoever it was that was playing Portugal before, I think it was Blue Kiwi, made a very interesting point where if you just don't explore with Portugal, then nobody else gets that information. Because I think it's 50 years after territory is explored, it's given to your neighbours, and then their neighbours, and then their neighbours, etc, etc, etc. So if Portugal just doesn't explore, then America remains unknown for a really long time. And that just gives you loads of time once you've actually got the economy and infrastructure in place to colonise. That's when you start exploring. It's an interesting objective. Alright, so let's go and take a look at some more goals, seeing as there's a little bit of a lull in the action. So we just talked about Brandenburg. I'm going through alphabetical order here. Castile. What a great time to talk about Castile. So Castile needs to own or become the overlord of all provinces in the Netherlands area, which is why Castile would actually kind of be a natural ally to Holland. Because Castile almost certainly doesn't want to see England expanding into here. This would be much more difficult for him to take if England owns this stuff. And that's in the whole Low Country region, which is this bit. So all of that needs to be owned or overlorded by, so you can have vassals over there, Castile. He also needs to have 3 colonial nations with 20 provinces in each, so 3 fairly large colonial nations. Must own 12 gold mines. I think this is one of my favourite goals. 12 gold mines for Castile. So they currently have the one in La Mancha. Obviously Mexico has a lot of gold. If they head over to Mexico, they can see there's tons of gold here. But it's a public goal. It's a public goal. Everyone knows about this. So Castile's going to be after this, but then so are the other colonizers. So I think that's going to lead to a lot of very interesting colonial conflict. And I've purposefully made a lot of nations have colonial goals because I want to see lots of colonial nations and lots of colonial wars. So I'm very excited for when colonialism starts. Like, colonialism and the Reformation are going to be like really big clash points. Right, what else? They need to be one of the top 3 great powers. So at the moment, Castile's not even on the list. Mamelukes have just come in as 8th, having taken over somebody else, I'm not sure who. France is still ahead of the Ottomans. Are those 2 still allied? Yep, France and the Ottomans are still allied. Ottomans still taking down Hungary, so I do suspect they're going to try and take most of it. Great Horde going after Crimea. Guy. Great Horde would be another interesting choice for a player, actually. I might add them to my list. I think I'm going to add them to the list.